I'm Sierra Morgan. I am the CEO for Rose HR. It's a virtual assistant client management agency where we match virtual assistants with our clients for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm also a family caregiver coach for Caregiver Compass Academy, and I am an HR professional with over 17 years of experience, and I'm just here to help you.
Okay. So I am in good company with Sierra. My name's Alicia Williams, and like many folks out there, wear many different hats and have several businesses. All of them have to do with helping people. That is my goal. That's my passion. That is my mission. Humanity and HR, that is one of the companies that I own as CEO. We help mainly human services organizations with anything HR related except for payroll. And anything dealing with unions. Aside from that, I have a mental health organization as well. We're licensed in the state of Maryland to provide therapy, medication management, and psychiatric rehab services. And then lastly, I do have another business that is an assisted living in Maryland where we do caretaking as well for elderly folks. So we are happy to be here today. And Sierra's going to tell us what we're talking about because I'm not quite sure. But I'm ready for whatever she has. Let's go.
So if you can't figure it out already, we are women with dynamic backgrounds that wear a lot of hats, and you can probably see the similarities or the trends there to know why we've been friends for umpteen
Yeah,
years, right?
yeah.
We're not going to age ourselves, okay? So, but we just wanted to kind of get down to the nitty gritty of things. As you heard, we are both business owners. We both have had successful careers before we got into being a business owner. So we just want to kind of share a little bit about our story in hopes that it can help and motivate you to get your journey started. So let's talk about first what success really costs. I mean,
Mm,
you know, everybody sees entrepreneurship in the open like, oh, wow, it's a easy way, a quick way to make money. But there's a lot that goes into being an
mhm.
entrepreneur, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So, and essentially it's a sacrifice. And so, again, it's a sacrifice that some people are afraid to basically do. And so what would you say are the top three things that you wish you knew about entrepreneurship?
Mm. Well, I would say even before entrepreneurship started, um, I would say one of the things really is to hire a great team. Hire a great team. I mean, I kind of knew that because I worked for other organizations where I was the lead at most of the organizations that I worked for. And so I saw the difference between, having a really good quality team and a struggling team. That's what we'll call it today. And I saw the difference in how those businesses thrive. One of the companies I used to work for had what I would consider like a Beyonce team. You know what I mean? Like
Top
polished,
notch.
top notch. Everybody knew what they were doing and came ready and excited for work. And then another company, not so much. And you saw the difference in the outcome, which wasn't that good. I think they're even out of business now. So I would say having a great team. That would be I would think number probably right up almost at the top somewhere there. You know what I mean? There's so many
Mhm.
different things, I wish I knew when I started a business, but making sure that your team is good. And sometimes if we're being honest with each other, that means, you can't go the cheap route like some people like to do and hire friends and family. That's not what we're doing. We're hiring the most qualified for what we need and whomever is most likely to help push our business forward, not just friends and family. If that happens to be the case and you decide to go that route, I'm always against that. I don't prefer that personally. And I personally don't do that. But if that's something you like to do and next thing, equally qualified as anyone else you may find, then sure, feel free to do that. So yeah, having a great team, I would think is really up there.
Yeah, and just to echo on that in regards to hiring friends and family, like because that can change the dynamic of your family when you have to have those tough
Mhm.
conversations, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, I do virtual assistant placement. And so at a lower rate, virtual assistants are only $4 to $5 an hour. So that's something that you need to prevent you from doing it yourself because eventually that could lead to burnout. And so many entrepreneurs, as they're in the state of building, become
Mhm.
burnt out and they want to give up. And it's like, no, you have a great idea. The world needs to know your idea, so you can't give up it, but
Yeah.
understand that you can't do that alone.
Hmm.
And going back to the original question, like far as the hidden side of entrepreneurship, I would think too that it's good to talk about taxes, the money side of things,
Hmm.
because people, as we pay taxes out of our, paycheck when we
Hmm.
work a
Hmm.
9 to 5, right? But again, it's not about the glitz and glamour when you become an
Hmm.
entrepreneur. You gotta pay taxes, honey. That
Hmm.
that money comes out. Uncle Sam wants his money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
any thoughts on
it's
that?
not even just taxes. It's like now you're responsible for your retirement. So you
Yep.
have to make sure all those things are kind of set up in place. And if you're not able to do them yourself, then you can hire a professional to do that, whether it's like an ADP or a financial consultant or something like that. I would say definitely outsource that. You may be good at what you do, but you may not be good at everything. And then others from the outside with other expertise can see things that you don't see. And having these companies that do those things for you, they can make sure that money is allocated and sent off for you. So it's really worth its weight in gold to, again, expand your team for people who know what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and take that off your plate. You really want to operate in your expertise,
Right.
and where you have the strongest skill set. And if that's not it, or it's not contributing to your bottom dollar, give it to somebody else.
Exactly. It is worth the investment.
Hmm.
So we've already said that you need to have a virtual assistant and you need to have a good financial person on your team that can consult with you to make sure that Uncle Sam isn't chasing down your back, right? So what's another thing about entrepreneurship or, note that, our potential entrepreneurs that are watching should know?
Hmm. I would say the hardest part for some people is charging the right amount of money for whatever it is, whether it's a service or a product. Researching, knowing what to charge is going to be very important because you don't want to undercut yourself. And remember, like we just talked about, now you're responsible for, maybe other costs associated with payroll, retirement, other fees that you might not have thought about so
Healthcare
much.
costs for
Healthcare, oh my
yourself.
goodness, which I'm sure is increasing now. So
Yes.
just really factoring all those things in, and not being afraid to charge what it really is going to cost you. Because if not, what ends up happening, and I've seen businesses do this too, they really work themselves into the negative, into the ground, and work themselves out of a business when they don't charge enough for their products and services. So you want to be competitive, but you also have to be fair for yourself to yourself. And charity starts at home. So just really kind of considering the full cost of doing business.
And how should they determine what those costs? Should they, research their competitors and see what they're charging for things and do a slight markup from that, or offer a lower price than their competitors just to get people in the door? Like, would you say start high or low when you're just starting?
It's so much involved in that. That's too loaded to talk about fully today. But just to
Mhm.
kind of give you a taste of what that's like, it really depends. So if you're in a regulated industry like my mental health company, they tell you what the fees are. They tell you what's being charged, right? So the
Yeah.
only way you can make a difference there with your profit margin, or your return on investment, is finding other ways to lower the cost. Maybe you have to determine how you're going to compensate staff. Um, to be able to make sure you can bring more in, or making sure that you have additional clients. For a business where it's like consulting, for instance, where you can kind of charge a range of prices, then you might want to think about how you want to package what you're offering. So you might want to be a la carte versus a retainer, which may generate more money. Or you might want to think about what kind of services you might want to offer. So usually recruitment is a higher ticket item. So then offer that versus being like a Walmart and offering 20 things. Just offer one or two good things that you can do very well, very easily, to really bring that money in quickly. And then if you're offering, a product, of course, you got to do your research and see if you're selling it on a platform, let's say like an Amazon. What are your competitors selling it for? Are you able to get it at a low enough amount of money where you can sell it quick enough to bring back in the money to purchase more? So so much research, just depending on also what type of product or business that you have.
Right. And I'm glad that you mentioned, like, don't be a Walmart. We love Walmart. However, you don't need to offer everything all at once,
No.
because you also don't want to overwhelm yourself in the beginning of things,
Yeah.
right? So it's okay to start off small and, take a step back and see how that is working. And then maybe, your customers, they are having good relations with you and they're like, oh, I wish you had this, or oh, I wish you had that. And then you can think about, oh, do I want to add those items a la carte or add
Mhm.
those additional services to my menu?
Yeah.
So,
And you can also see, like, if you've been working with them in a consulting capacity, like for us, HR consulting, after working with someone for some time, you know a little bit more about their business. So you can offer, and again, it's not selling, it's sharing. So if I see that a company I've been working with is having trouble with retention, I may offer one with recruitment. I may offer professional development also for their staff that are there, and then also maybe even exit interviews because they don't know necessarily why people are leaving. They're just leaving, saying farewell, and they have no idea. They're just starting all over every single time. So there's so much more you can think about. And it's much easier to get a sale from an organization or person that's already doing business with you than it is to go find another client. So just keeping that in mind too, and making sure that relationship stays really tight.
no, that's awesome. And so, when you become an entrepreneur, you also have to reinvent yourself.
Mm,
Not reinventing the wheel because, all the services that are out there, everybody just has specific niches, but you're, reinventing yourself and how you're going about doing things. And usually a lot of times people start businesses because something pivotal has changed.
yeah.
I know for me, I was laid off. And I think you experienced something similar
Hmm.
that pushed you into entrepreneurship.
Well,
Right.
yes and no.
Okay.
So I've always owned my own business, whether it was selling purses out the trunk of my car, perfume, whatever, whether it was selling gift baskets
Mhm.
on the corner for Valentine's Day, whatever. I just always knew that one check was just never enough for the
Mhm.
responsibilities I had as an adult. You know what
Right.
I mean? And then I've always wanted to live well. So it costs money to live well and you make those sacrifices. So I live and I breathe entrepreneurship, as you already know. And I always have because I come from a family of that. But to your point, when it comes to entrepreneurship, yes, there is a sacrifice, right?
Mhm.
But there is a gain as well, and you just have to weigh those out, just knowing that it ends up being worth it and it works if you work, and not being afraid to pivot, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid to, pivot. And it's like things like losing a job or the dynamics of the world that is changing. They can often be looked at as setbacks, but really sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. But you have to like basically be open-minded to that and give it all you got. And, because you have the idea, you have the expertise, you're doing what you know.
Yes, and that set back ends up being a set free. Okay,
All right.
I know that's a sermon, right? Okay. So it just depends on your situation. But seriously, some of us need that to kind of push us out the nest. You know what I mean? Like to Sierra's point, I was working at a place, at one point it was a great fit and I loved it initially. And then after a while I saw that there was some misalignment. So that's when I registered my business, Humanity in HR. Once I saw misalignment, I saw things in the HR space that I did not like. And I'm like, ooh, we need some humanity here. That's how the name became what it is today. And with that being said, that's how I was born. From whatever you go through, then you can use that to like, you know what? Let me start my next chapter. So I knew, but a year before then, if you look on the Maryland registration, business registration, I started the year before because I knew there was misalignment. I knew I was going towards that direction, and God had greater plans for me than I even knew myself. So I just say all that to say, yeah, some of us got to be pushed out the nest, but if you get pushed out the nest, it's better to be a little bit prepared, whether it's your business registered already, some contacts you've made, you know what I mean? Because you just never know. And I think this last year or so, with the different political changes we have seen, changes we never expected to happen. None of us
Yeah.
really expected to happen, letting us know that that secure job that we thought was secure, and we bet on that one job to pay our 10 bills was not enough. And if they were to leave us or be absent, it could really impact our livelihood and our mental health, if we're being honest. So I say all that to say, betting on yourself is not a bad thing. And if you think about it, one thing I really love with entrepreneurship, instead of having that one job, that 9 to 5 that pays 20 bills, whatever bills you
Right.
got, now guess what? You got 20 opportunities to pay your bills because you have different clients, different connections, all having that money come in from different places. So God forbid if one thing were to fall off, I'm not running to the poorhouse. You know what I mean? I'm not crying. I'm not, you know what I mean? I have
Yeah.
other things that are going just in case, because life doesn't stop. Responsibilities don't quit just because you quit a job or something happened. It keeps moving and you have to be prepared for any eventuality that's really out of your control. So the things that you can control them. You can control the money you make. That's one other thing that we don't talk about enough that I love about being an entrepreneur, right?
Mhm.
Because we've all worked these jobs and we think we've made it when we hit the six-figure mark.
No.
And I say that because I was one of those people that was, wait, when I started making six figures, probably like maybe 10 years ago, I was like, oh, yes, finally I can do that. Now, keep in mind, 10 years ago, it might have been a little something, but now it's definitely nothing. And I say all that to say, you look at that, and that's been the mark for us for a long time, but with things
Yes.
becoming more expensive, you need
Inflation
about
is real.
right.
Mhm.
And the reality is you need about you and three other family members living in bunk beds in your house, all making six figures to live a sustainable lifestyle where you
That's
don't
true
feel,
though.
no, truly, especially if you have kids in daycare, where you don't feel overwhelmed, but you feel empowered. You know what I mean? You don't want to feel overwhelmed, you want to feel empowered. And I say all that to say what I really love about entrepreneurship is yes, is it tough? Yes. Are there days when you don't believe in yourself? Yes. Are there days that you're doubtful? Yes. Those are days I work harder and I do more. Because if I'm working hard and doing more, I don't have time to even think about doubts. And one of the things that helps is when that check comes in. So what I would suggest anybody who's thinking about entrepreneurship or in entrepreneurship to do is get to the money quick. Get to the money quick. It will help you with that self-doubt. It'll help you with, believing in yourself and your services that you provide. So how do you get to the check quickly, right? Make it easy for people to pay you. That's number one. Don't give them one link and they got 5 different places to go to get to the part where they pay. One payment link. Let's get to the money. Let's get the work started and get it done. You know what I mean? And as soon as you get that, believe me, your belief goes up. You're like, oh, wow, I really can do this.
Right.
And then after that, believe me, after that, you become psychologically unemployable. After you find out how easy it is to make money, your mind can never go back to the same size. You become psychologically unemployable, right? And you start to think, wait a minute, they're paying me $100,000 for 12 months. Why can't I do this in 6 months? In
Just
3 months,
saying.
whatever, you decide. And that's the fact of the matter. You really decide. Now, will it take some tweaking? Will it take some work? Will it take some networking? Will it take some technology? Yes, it'll take all of that. But guess what? It won't take. It won't take you working 10 years at a place that you didn't like anyway to get to the point where you're working 6 figures. You can make 6 figures, next month if that's something you decide to do. You know what I mean? So that's one thing, again, I love about entrepreneurship. You can make as little as you're willing to work for, as much as you're willing to sacrifice.
Y'all heard that. So, and I think it's important too because, we already mentioned you are a serial entrepreneur. And what that means is, you have multiple businesses, you're helping other people grow their businesses, and you're still adding to your resume more businesses. And your humanity in HR actually funded your therapy clinic. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, again, keep going. I mean, it's possible,
But
right?
Sierra, that's the hard part. People quit before they start to make money. I'm not saying it's stick and stay till you get your pay. Why would you quit before you actually got to see the results?
A lot of people, we want, and I'm guilty, of course. I like instant gratification. But sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to get that instant
Not always.
gratification. You really have to do the grunt work to get to that point. But like Alicia said, once you get there and you see that check and you're like, oh, wow, I can do that. It's extra motivation, to push you in the right direction. You just got to keep going. And I know it's harder or easier said than done, right? But trust me, there is a light at the end of the tunnel for sure. And, again, we do understand that life is happening while you're trying to do this. I mean, we're caregivers. We work, I also work a 9 to 5. Alicia has multiple businesses and all different areas, but we are still hustling. We are still getting it done. And, at the end of the day, we're still making sure that we protect our mental health with this, and I think that's very important. That's something that people don't talk about with entrepreneurship, just because it's a mind shift in regards to that. And I mean, would you want to give any entrepreneur or prospective entrepreneur any advice in regards to protecting their mental health or things that they need to think about mentally as they embark on this journey, because it's such a big shift?
Take a break when you need it and delegate when you can't. Take a break when you need it, delegate when you can't. And when I say delegate, I'm not just talking about the things like with your business, like Sierra's company can help with virtual assistants. I'm talking about the chef, the housekeeper. Sierra knows I delegate everything because I'm running other households too. I have another house besides the one I'm in now. And my mother has another house. At one point, my father had another house. So I'm running households besides businesses. I'm running households and making sure my parents are getting the help that they need too and the care. And then they have staff that I have to hire and coordinate, which you do the same thing. It's a lot. But you can only be one place at one time, and charity starts at home. So before you can help everybody else, you really have to take care of yourself first. And I'm learning that the hard way, to be honest with you, in some ways, not to go into details, but I'm learning it the hard way. So I'm focusing more now on myself. Business will always be there. You know what I mean? Money will always be there. I'll never lack. You know what I mean? So, and that's a belief I have. So if you don't have that belief, if you need some of mine, take some of mine. Have that belief and know for yourself that there will never be a lack. And when it comes to business and talking about your business to other people, you will never say the wrong thing to the right person ever. Just say what you truly believe, how you can really help somebody, and just do what you say you're going to do. That's simple.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to also surround yourself by like-minded individuals
Mhm.
or encouraging
Yeah.
individuals, because Alicia and I can be on the phone for hours just having a whole brainstorming session. Like I could throw out something and she's like, okay, well, let me try to figure this out. You know what I mean? You need a
Mhm.
friend like that. Or
Yeah.
if you don't have a friend, get a business coach.
Yeah.
Alicia offers those services as well that can just basically hear you out, let you just kind of brain dump all of the ideas
Mhm.
and hopes and dreams that you have, and try to put it into more of a structured plan
Yeah.
for you to get those things out, right?
Definitely, but be ready for action. I don't want to
Mhm.
waste your time or money. Be ready for action because if not, I'm not helping you. You know what I mean? So I would say all those excuses, all the things, all the barriers, we work to get rid of them so we can really move forward.
Yeah, and again, our past generations, have taught us that working a 9 to 5 is important for our retirement, for all of these things. But as Alicia said, there's so much more out there, and I think that it's very important to understand that you need to create an identity for yourself beyond
Mm.
that career, and that starts too with entrepreneurship, doing all the things that
Yeah.
you like to do. There's so many people that have like that are good seamstress. I don't know why seamstress is popping in my head, right? But they're talented,
Mhm.
right? That's not something they would have a 9 to 5 for, but it's something that they're good at and that they're doing that side hustle. And really, if they worked at it, it could become their full-time hustle. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because and they love what they do. It's a
Yeah.
hobby that actually turned into a passion. And, and I don't know if I'm gonna say this correct, like, because you always say this to me, is like, if you're doing something and it's not making you money, then it's just a hobby. But if you really want it to turn into something, then you gotta go ahead and hit the nail in the head. You gotta keep pushing
Mhm.
yourself. I don't know if I said that saying
Well,
correctly, but
but
yes.
basically, like if you treat it like a hobby, it's going to turn into a hobby. Meaning, if you start your own business and you treat it like a hobby, which means you kind of passive with it, you do it
Right.
when you feel like it. It's going to do what hobbies do, which is take your time and money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I
Hmm.
think that people lack the confidence to really start their own
Hmm.
business. And, you know, I always say confidence is not something that, you per se can be taught. And I know that can be, we can go back and forth on that. But I feel like, nobody is going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in what skills and abilities that you have, then how are you going to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I mean, this is the thing though. I mean, you might build it on the way up. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Like, everyone didn't have family that told them, like, "Oh, you can do it. You can do it." You don't get an A for effort after
Yeah,
the first grade. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
either you're doing it or you're not. That's real simple. That is what it is. And I think part of for me, and I think most
Mhm.
people, confidence. You can build confidence, but you only build by doing. You only build by doing, not by talking about it. By doing. You know. And so if you think about confidence, you think about kind of akin to like ships. They're all safe ashore, but they're not meant to stay ashore. So if you're building confidence, you have to actually ride the wave, figuratively,
Yeah,
of
I
course.
think, I mean, yeah, you can build confidence, and I feel like, but you have to have that start, like they say, the start with a mustard seed, and allowing it to bloom. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So you have that vision, but you gotta be able to grow
Yeah.
into it, and grow upon it, and trust yourself,
Hmm.
trust your skills and abilities, like you said earlier, like so many of us have doubts,
Yeah.
and we self-doubt.
Hmm.
And you might not have people that's going to say, "Hey, you get that A for effort," or "Yeah, you can do this, you can do that." But you gotta believe yourself. If it comes down to affirmations, writing it on the mirror every day, or just saying it, you can do it. And like I said, if you need that accountability coach, or you need somebody to help kind of put your ideas into a structure, then you need to contact Alicia, for her business coaching services, so she can kind of guide you on a step-by-step process in regards to that. So we just again wanted to get on here and talk about some of the key foundational principles of entrepreneurship, and we only really just did a little bit of that. There's
Yeah.
so much more when it comes to entrepreneurship, but if you want to learn more, you can reach Alicia at.
Humanityandhr.com. It's the easiest way.
All right. And if you want to reach out to me in regards to hiring a virtual assistant to help you on your journey, then you can visit me at info@rosehr.org or www.rosehr.org to schedule a consultation today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you learned something. Let us know below in the comments what you have learned or what else you want to know so we can continue to do more videos like this. Take care.
Thank you.